They will be in a sec.
What are you going to try? What are you going to
Just gotta give it a few more minutes. Said I'd go live at 8 o'clock, so it's only 8 minutes to 8. So I'll give it a couple of minutes for people to come on, and then I'm quite happy to start taking questions or queries, or if there's any issues you want to raise, you can always fire away. I'm sure those of you who are watching feel just as weird as I do. I've no idea who you are. I know there's 20 of you, but I've no idea who you are. Like I said, I'm just going to give us till 8 o'clock before I start asking questions. Answering questions, not asking questions. That's your job. Thanks, Jer. Now, folks, 5 more minutes till 8 o'clock. But if you have any questions that you want to pop into the comments between now and then, please feel free. Because without your comments, I'm just going to be, or your questions, I'm pretty much just going to be sitting here talking to myself. I'm hoping that this will be somewhat interactive. I know it's a bit awkward live, but I'll just pop your questions into the comment section there, or there is the option to message me, so you can always message me directly if it's something that you don't want to put your name to. And just, we'll get to answering those questions as soon as they pop up, and as soon as it hits 8 o'clock. 4 minutes away, so I'm going to take every second I possibly can before this gets awkward. Yeah, I only wish it was a fake background. It's not. It is my. It is the new office. So, yeah, I swear. The Ola Pride folders. Yeah, no, they were totally intentional. I wasn't. I'm not going to lie and pretend they were unintentional. There's no point of this, right? Um, Hi, Elaine. Don't worry. Like I said, you just pop your comments in there. I'll see them and I'll get to answering them. So what I've popped on to do today is to give people an opportunity to ask me any questions about any of the work I've been doing, or to raise any of the things that they think I should be doing that I'm not doing, in order for me to kind of better represent you. Hey, Gail, all the way from France, I suppose. But yeah, so that's what I'm hoping to do, is give you the opportunity to pop your questions in there. I will hopefully have answers for you. If I don't have answers for you, I'll get back to you with the answers. And then I'm just going to give a little bit of an update about some of the work that we've done throughout the week. Yeah, so it's pretty much that simple. That's absolutely fine, Elaine. I'll give you the updates as and when I have them. Okay, no problem. Don't be worrying. And if you have any questions, just fire your questions as we go, and I'll get to them. I'll answer them. If I don't have the opportunity to answer them, I'll answer them at another point. So I suppose I will give you a. Just there we are. We're on 8 o'clock, so I suppose I should start answering you now. I'm on the clock, I suppose. So I suppose I might start with a couple of the committees I'm on. So I'm on the South Western Regional Drugs and Alcohol Task Force. I am also on. Hi, Joan. How are you? I'm also on the Housing Special Policy Committee for Kildare County Council. As I'm sure anybody who's aware that follows my page, I have a very keen interest in housing and homelessness. I needn't tell you this is absolutely horrendously nerve-wracking, but we'll get there. I'm hoping to make this more of a weekly thing, so we'll get slightly more comfortable with each other when it comes to me answering your questions and you asking mine, and you also get to laugh at how awkward and struggling, how much I struggle when I'm on a live video. But sure, we'll get there. So I suppose, Johnner, you've asked, are the council not working during level 5 as town is full of rubbish and dirty masks? The reality is the council are working during level 5. They have been, now the bin collection frequency is nowhere near what it wants to be, and that's something I've raised numerous times. In relation to dirty masks, To use a rather colloquial term, I wish people would stop being scumbags and actually start picking up and cleaning up after themselves, because the reality is nobody should have to clean up anybody's biohazardous waste. The reality is we're using these in order to prevent the spread of COVID or coronavirus. So people should really be cleaning up after themselves. And just on a quick note on that, one of the things I've recently been made aware of by a lot of kind of animal rights and animal welfare organisations is, if you do have a mask, if you're using disposable masks, ensure that you're cutting the ties before you're placing them in the bin. That's if you're placing them in the bin, because we all know full well a lot of people aren't. So just cut the ties before you place them in the bin, and we're done. Just to go on to that, Johnner, if there are any kind of serious issues around waste or waste disposal, if you're seeing illegal dumping anywhere, please just give me a shout. Everybody has my number, but it's 085 829 8237, just in case you don't. Or pop me a message on here with any locations. If you can grab a pic of the area too, I am more than happy to get on to KCC in relation to it. So I suppose just to give you a couple of updates on the committees that I have, like I said, if you have any questions, fire them in and I'll ask them as we go. I'll answer them as we go. Apparently I'm just going to be asking you questions. So in relation to the Housing Special Policy Committee, there's been a number of tasks, there's been a number of projects that have been taken up by the Housing SPC. One of those being that the Housing SPC gives us kind of regular updates on homelessness and housing in the county, referencing kind of monthly and quarterly reports. Now the last reports we were given was December. We'll be due to get another report on homeless figures soon. You'll forgive me, like I said, I might be answering live, but I do have my notes. So there's been a number of things that have come down the line. So the Affordable Housing Bill, which is being published and will be considered by the Oireachtas at some point during 2021. So there's a couple of things that we have to consider in relation to the Oireachtas bill, and that's that affordable is assessed at 350,000, and well, I don't know about you guys, but 350,000 isn't exactly affordable to me. For me, essentially, what our government is doing is they're treating families as somebody that as a unit that contains two economic units, so two viable economic units that they would use. So when it comes to affordability, we really need to be looking at what is actually affordable for people, and we need to develop a proper scale or a proper measure for affordability. Another issue that we've come across is in the affordable bill, the government were actually supposed to propose cost rental and increase HAP limits and max income limits for people to avail of social housing. So as I'm sure many of you are aware, as time has gone by, we've had quite a number of issues in relation to social housing, as in relation to people who are entitled to avail of social housing. As our time has gone by, people who would normally be considered middle class and working class have been pulled closer and closer together, and the disposable income for these different groups is pretty much the same. So while you have somebody who may earn over a certain amount and not be entitled to social housing, for that matter, you could have somebody who earns lower than them, but they have the same disposable income, and that's what we need to really look at when it comes to affordability and social housing. If we don't create a system whereby anyone who needs to access social housing can access social housing, we're just going to continuously worsen the housing crisis. I suppose one of the bigger pieces that's been taken up by the Housing SPC is around antisocial behaviour in housing estates, or how we manage our estates, how we work through our estates, and how we deal with complaints about instances of antisocial behaviour or instances of antisocial behaviour or kind of like misbehaviour by residents and stuff like that. So what we've been pushing for is kind of a really robust estate management plan, which would obviously it would involve a review of the current system. Now, in order to have that really robust estate management plan, we've needed to pull together an interagency kind of grouping that can work together to create systems around estate management properly. Now, I would come from a proactive policing or a proactive working format quicker than I would come from a reactive working format. So, like for instance, I would strongly believe in community policing, which is engaging with your communities, working with your communities before it actually gets to a point where there's a need for enforcement. And from speaking to a lot of local Gardaí, they would work from and believe in a very similar model to that. We need to, so like I was saying, we do need this multi-agency team or this interdisciplinary team to take on board kind of positive projects and problems. So if it's one thing I've learned from my previous work as a youth and community volunteer, it's that we need to work with people. We need to provide supports. We need to provide things for people to do if we want to be able to create safe, sustainable communities. We can't just dump people in an area and expect the best, like, because the reality is nobody is going to react well if the services that they need or require for a decent life or a decent existence, even for that matter, nobody is going to react very well if you're dumping a load of people into a housing estate and going, off you go, do what you want. So one of the things we've been pushing for is for a greater involvement of kind of community-based initiatives, community-based in like work within housing estates, in order to create links between, well, I suppose, community workers and other residents in the housing estate. But also after that, you can pull in the likes of the Gardaí and create a positive interaction between the Gardaí and local residents. That's 2 pages down, 1 page to go. I suppose that we've got the energy efficient programme. So Kildare County Council has received 3.3 million in funding under the Midlands Energy Efficient Retrofit. So that's part of the Just Transition Fund in order to explain Just Transition in simple terms, it's about ensuring that nobody is left behind. It's about ensuring that those who are worst affected by the mitigation factors of climate change, so the likes of, let's say, for instance, increasing fuel costs, the moving away from peat burning or peat harvesting, these kind of things. So the Just Transition Fund is to try and make it simpler and easier for these people to continue about their lives without being seriously negatively impacted on an economic level or on a social or societal level, so that they are not made poorer by initiatives that we're trying to implement in order to fight climate change. So in addition, it's anticipated that the council are going to receive funding from the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage for another energy efficiency work. Now, we don't have all the details of that, but we're waiting on that. But we as the Housing SPC will be getting regular briefings on the progress of the Midlands Energy Efficiency Retrofit Programme and other energy efficiency works in our housing stock. I suppose another thing that was raised at the Housing SPC, we were given a presentation on Kildare County Council's strategic plan for housing persons with a disability, and it's due for review during 2021. So a template to facilitate the review of the document was recently published by the Housing Agency, and a draft plan will be brought before the Housing SPC at some point during 2021 for our consideration. So if anybody has anything that they think they might be interested in contributing to something like that, or they would like me to ask questions on when it is brought to us, please do come to me, because ensuring that we put people with disabilities first in kind of all decision making is something that is very close to my heart. A couple of the things I raised was the urgent need to raise the issue of grants applied for by persons with a disability, because in most cases people are waiting over a year for action, and then oftentimes people are worried that even after that year that they may not get the funding. We have people who have been released from hospital after life-limiting illnesses that needed adaptation. So those life-limiting illnesses could be a myriad of different things, from cancer to, gosh, I don't know, diagnosis with severe diabetes, any of these kind of things. So what I asked Kildare County Council at the Housing SPC to do was to consider transitional homes for people until adaptations were done. The reality is that we should have at least 5% adapted homes in stock, and what I'm waiting for is to find out how many of the newly leased homes are adapted, because the reality is there's a couple of new programs coming down the line. One of those including a 25-year leasing program, which I do not agree with in any way, shape or form. I firmly believe that it is literally just pushing the housing crisis down the line in 25 years, and that we'll be picking up the pieces in 25 years. That essentially is a scheme whereby we will be leasing houses for 25 years. After the 25 years, they go back into the hands of the private developer instead of us just building. Instead of just building houses ourselves. Another issue that I raised was in relation to the traveller accommodation programme. Now again, I haven't been given full figures on this, but I was asking how many leased homes would be allocated to traveller families. I was asking what is the strategy for transferring traveller families who are being discriminated against within their own communities. What work was being done to minimise the traveller families in emergency accommodation, or any families in emergency accommodation for that matter. There are a lot of unwell babies or children in hubs and B&Bs in 2020, and that's not something that we want to see, especially with coronavirus on the horizon. I was asking, I essentially was talking to KCC saying that we have to offer a transitional lease for a year or two out of the leased units. There seems to be a focus on the south of the county. Now, I'm Kildare Newbridge Municipal District Councillor in the Kildare South constituency for the general election. So I don't necessarily have an issue with supporting people within our own communities, but the reality is that we have numerous members of the travelling community or other communities within the area of Kildare North, and it doesn't seem fair to those communities or to anybody else that we would be forcing them to travel to a different part of the county instead of supporting them or accommodating them in their own local areas. And that is something that is really important to me. Now, I firmly believe that we need to be increasing the number of halting sites around the county. Travelling is part of the travelling community's culture, and it's not something that any one of us have a right to take away. So we do need to look at how we can better support travelling communities, to the travelling community to kind of live and interact and engage with other communities. So I suppose that's the end of my update from the housing SPC. So Niamh, are there many? Niamh asked a question and then deleted it. I suppose one of the questions there was, are there any other councillors against the 25-year leasing plan? I know 100% that my fellow Social Democrat councillors most definitely are. Anybody who speaks to Nuala Killeen will talk to you and explain. She's happy to talk and explain the serious issues around the 25-year leasing plan, in that we're letting out residences from private developers. They fall into kind of our responsibility for maintenance, all of these kind of things for those 25 years. There's a couple of issues around local property tax payment and the rest of that. But then you have the additional issues of what happens after the 25 years. Now, I know the ideal would be that if somebody, if somebody were for 25 years, that you need to keep them on after the 25 years. But there is no assurance here. There is nothing that states that they would have to. So we could have a family in accommodation through KCC for 25 years, meaning they are now off the housing list. They have been removed from the housing list because they're in a housing accommodation scheme. So if they've been 16 years on the list, they're housed and they're accommodated for 25 years at least. Apologies, sneezing into the elbow though. So at least they would be leased. But the reality is then this family, after 25 years, is no longer on the council list, so has to start from scratch. If that developer or landlord wants them out, they can have them out. Now, listen, there's good and bad in every section of society, and I'm I'm sure there are landlords out there that would continue to keep people on, or developers out there that would continue to keep people on. But this is it's the others that we need to protect against. It's the ones that won't do that. It's the ones that will completely ignore those kind of situations that we need to deal with. Mark, any update on the travel expenses motion you brought forward? No. So the reality I brought forward was it was due to be discussed at the last council meeting. Unfortunately, we ran over time, which is fair enough. We do have time limits. People do have other things that they need to do. So it was adjourned. Now it was adjourned and will be brought forward to the next council meeting. And from looking on the agenda that I received today, it will be one of the first kind of 5 motions to be discussed. So that is massively important. And again, it's like I said time and time again, anytime I've been talking about this motion is not to vilify others, it's not to attack others. I just don't feel comfortable receiving expenses for something I am not doing. And the reality is I know a lot of other councillors are doing the work that they get those expenses for. A lot of other councillors are still travelling to support constituents as best they can. A lot of other councillors are still travelling for council meetings, and I wouldn't expect anybody to give up their expenses. Like, the reality is, as county councillors, we are horrendously, but getting expenses for something we're not doing is not how to fix that. A complete review is needed, absolutely, but like I said, getting expenses for something we do not do is not how to fix that. Hi Maurice, how are you? Oh, thank you, Peter. I love the shirt myself. I need to stop wearing so much purple, or I'm going to start blending into the backgrounds around here. Yeah, Elaine, you're right. COVID is not treating our youth well. To be honest, it's not treating anybody very well. The shutting down of kind of services and stuff like that is going to have seriously negative impacts after we eventually do come out of this and begin living with COVID. There have been quite a number of drug seizures. Now, the reality is that that has been some amazing work on behalf on Garda Síochána. But I think one thing that we've realised throughout this pandemic, I was reading a research piece the other day about how the numbers of cannabis users in the country have gone up, the number of the number of people engaging in alcohol abuse or kind of binge drinking, these kind of things, have gone up as well. So that to me would indicate some serious issues around mental health issues, around socialization issues, and these are all things that we're going to have to deal with as we begin to come out of this. Now, I know there's some amazing groups that are doing amazing work. I know Hope D local work in relation to mental health. I know Newbridge Family Resource Centre has a counselling service. I know RS or Abbey Regional Addiction Services has a counselling service. There's a few of them out there, so there are people working on this, and I myself would take calls from people who are in urgent need of support. So, these are all things that we're going to have to deal with there. So, Peter, how many rough sleepers are in Newbridge currently? So currently, up until yesterday, we had 4 rough sleepers. Yesterday, we got 2 of those into emergency accommodation. But it is important to point out that it's not just Newbridge I work with. I work with Kildare, I work with Monasterevin, I work with the outskirts, and I've also been working with a number of rough sleepers in the Naas area as well. So overall, I've been dealing with maybe 8 or 9 rough sleepers across the space. We have managed to move 7 of those into emergency accommodation, leaving us with 2. So that is massively progressive. Martin, how much are these expenses that you can claim? Okay, so Martin, Are you talking about the expenses that I'm talking about in my motion in relation to? So, the reason why I brought forward the motion was so councillors are still receiving what are known as kind of travel and subsistence expenses that would normally be viewed as expenses for travelling to and from our council meeting. Well, they're based on our council work, so travelling to and from constituents and supporting constituents, all of this kind of stuff, but they're based on 80% of attendance of our meetings a year. So mine amount to approximately maybe 1,000 a year. Broken down, they could probably be approximately 50 quid a week. Now listen, I know it sounds like I'm being tokenistic in saying that I shouldn't be receiving this 50 quid a week, but if it's something that I realized, and to be honest it's something I've always known, but if it's something that I realized, and I would hope that a lot of other people realized at the very beginning of this pandemic, when the pandemic unemployment payment was reduced from 350 down to 300 or down to 203, is that €50 makes a massive difference to somebody who's struggling. In reality, €50 could be the difference between somebody's weekly shop or heating or lunch for the kids or all of these kind of things. So what I'm trying to show by wanting to return my expenses is that we are actually all in this together. Now the reality is, as a councillor, I would get approximately €720 every 2 weeks. So it's not a well paid job or anything like it. The majority of other councillors have other jobs or other things they do. I do not. I full time, except for when I pick up the odd kind of extra few hours in a bar or wherever, because prior to being a county councillor I worked in the service industry, and I don't know, it's not much different. It's still somewhat like the service industry. Neve Pender, have I eaten today? No, not yet, but I will, don't worry. Elaine Meany, I totally agree. I work as a nurse, so I fully understand. I just hope we can support our youth and others throughout this. Absolutely, Elaine. I've been working with areas like Newbridge Family Resource Centre and other family resource centres around the area in order to try and figure out how we can best support people coming out of this. I know Newbridge Family Resource Centre, for instance, their youth worker up there, Lisa, they've been continuing to try to engage with young people as best they can. The reality is this is a very difficult situation in order to engage. I know I've been trying to look at some kind of innovative ways to work with young people and support them, but it's difficult to reach out to young people when we're not dating, when we're not supposed to be going to meet people that we're not supposed to be meeting. So if anybody has any ideas on how best to engage with young people or support young people, please do let me know. You can always email me or text me. Mark, will you be doing a weekly live videos? You think it's great for people to engage with you. Would it be possible to bring in some other councillors? That's actually a really good idea. Part of the reason why I didn't bring in any other councillors on this one is because, well, I wasn't sure how it would go. I was pretty sure that nobody would show up. Prior to this, I was saying I'd probably have maybe 5 people on a live, and I'd be talking to myself. The live has fluctuated between 10 and 30 people, so it's a lot more than I actually expected. Neve, might be an idea to do a quick update on the homeless families who've been helping over the last few months. Yeah, okay, so I suppose in relation to a lot of the homeless families I've been supporting, something that a lot of people don't realise or don't think when it comes to homelessness or in our county, a lot of people seem to think that it's single men or single women, or it's people struggling with addiction. And again, I will say, and I've always said, that people with addiction still need our support. So I won't hear anything kind of against that one. But some of the families I've been working with, I suppose in the last month I've been working with maybe families, and to be fair to Kildare County Council and their housing department, they have been working their asses off to the best of their ability. So I'm not going to knock them. Well, when it comes to the people I've been bringing forward to them, so I'm not going to knock them on that. Now the reality is, we need better accommodation. We need to be offering people own door accommodation. But I suppose the families that I've been working with, the majority of them have kids. I've had one or two single families. Now, one of the best things about having this office here is that I've had the opportunity to reach out to the community and ask the community for like donations of what's the word? Donations of what's the word? I can't remember the word for toilet. Remember the word for toiletries. So toothbrushes, toothpaste, small shampoos and conditioners, all of that kind of stuff. Tissue, masks if people have masks, because people are always looking for masks. And Neve wants me to plug the St. Vincent de Paul's Hidden Homelessness campaign. Uh-oh. What happened? Am I still here? Can people still hear me? Because everything just went haywire. Yeah, so Neve wants me to plug St. Vincent de Paul's Hidden Homelessness campaign. Now, that was a campaign that they done quite some time ago, but it's absolutely amazing. What they do is they set up a premises up in Dublin to make it look like it was a letting agent, and they had all of these pictures. Just look it up. Go onto St. Vincent de Paul's website and look up their campaigns, and their hidden homeless one is it's absolutely amazing, and it's something I'd love to see replicated here. So if anybody's any good at campaigning or working on campaigns like that, I am 100% here to work with you and support that. Elaine, I thank you. Help or volunteer if it helps, and while right now I don't know, there will definitely be a lot in the future where we need to work together with communities. I suppose, has anybody any kind of other questions gone through? I've gone through some of the families we've been supporting. I suppose one of the really amazing things that we've had recently is I had Olive from Vanguard Plus, who donated a load of kind of wet gear and suits and kind of coats and stuff like that. And like, I mean, I'm delighted to say that they've gone out to people in Newbridge, they've gone out to people in Athy, Monastrevin, Maynooth, Clane, some went out to people in Naas today, and then the majority, like, I mean, obviously there's still some here just in case people need them, but then there's some that have gone to Peter McVerry Trust as well to support them in their work. And then I have been engaging with a number of homeless people recently and assisting them in getting interviews for jobs and stuff like that. So I had a gentleman the other day drop down kind of a suit and shirts and stuff like that, which came in really handy because the person had Zoom interview, so they were able to kind of change into something. While I don't believe physical appearance should be important, it is the society we live in, so he had something more appropriate to change into for a work interview, which was really important. And then I suppose we had, so I also work with Housing Action Kildare, and I do a little bit of work with the Dining Room Newbridge as well. So I'm delighted to say that a lot of collections of kind of toiletries and stuff like that were able to get out to those who needed them. Anybody who's been rough sleeping, again, as I've said time and time again, Kildare County Council's Cold Weather Initiative is activated through Peter McVerry House. And anybody who needs to be accommodated will be accommodated. I suppose another thing to bring up is something that I raised in relation to the emergency line. I had a number of people raise to me that it was almost impossible for them to ring the emergency line because whatever network provider they were with, it didn't allow them to ring 1-800 numbers. So something I've raised with Peter McVerry, and indeed Peter McVerry are going to raise it through KCC for me, is the implementation of a text-based service, so that people can text, so that they don't need the 1-800 number, and so that they can text for free in order to better support people being able to access emergency accommodation. Because the last thing we want is for somebody to try and ring a 1-800 number, their phone not allowing them to ring it, and then them not being able to access the supports they need. So Mark, in relation to direct provision, there's been quite a lot of work that's been going on with people in direct provision locally. I've been supporting a number of people who have gotten deportation orders, which were supposed to be stayed during the pandemic, because there's no way we should be deporting anybody who's been like anybody during a pandemic. It's absolutely ridiculous and abhorrent, and it just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So I've been working with a number of those people, and I've been raising their queries, questions and concerns with a number of the ministers. But as well as that, so a lot of the supplies that we've been given in relation to so the toiletry supplies and stuff like that, they've been passed on either through me or through another organisation, in order to ensure that they have kind of the stuff that they need as best they need. Now I'll be working with Abolish Direct Provision Ireland, hopefully. Now I haven't even asked them yet, but I've spoken at a number of their events, and I'm looking to have a chat with them around developing an information piece around what people in direct provision actually face, because the reality is I don't think enough people are aware of what's going on there. So Lisa Marie, is there such a thing as a Help to Buy with the council? Yes, so that would be like a council-based mortgage, I presume you're talking about, or the Rebuilding Ireland mortgages. So the way they normally work is that you would have to get a refusal from a bank. If, like, as in looking for a mortgage, you'd have to get a refusal from a bank and a building society or credit union or whatever. I think you have to get two. No, I'm not sure. I don't have the full information, but I'm happy to find it out for you and fire it over to you in a message. And then you can approach the council for assistance with a loan to buy your own home. But again, that goes back to what I was talking about earlier on in relation to oh God, what was the word? Sorry, yes, in relation to affordability. Because the reality is people are going to keep getting refused if we don't actually come up with an effective affordability measure. Nicola, yeah, absolutely. So you're asking, can you donate gift cards for supermarkets to my office in case families are stuck for groceries? Yeah, you absolutely can if that's what you want to do. Now, like, I mean, the reality is if they're donated to me, I will be handing them over to somewhere like the Dining Room or Newbridge Family Resource Centre or a local community guard if I can. So by all means, you can donate them here. Again, so like, I mean, everybody knows the supermarkets, but you can donate them through here. My office is Unit 1, Liffey House, Lower Eyre Street, U12, PD35. Yeah, I'm one of those weirdos that actually knows the air code of the premises off by heart. But if you're on Eyre Street, I'm beside Care. I'm diagonally across from Apache Pizza. I swear that is not why I have been gaining weight. I haven't just been eating Apache. Or if you know O'Flynn's Architects, on the bottom, I am directly across from O'Flynn's Architects. But yeah, absolutely. If you have any gift cards or anything like that that you'd like to donate, I would be more than happy to take them here. You can just pop them through the letterbox. That way, there's no interaction, there's no cross-contamination, or whatever we're calling it these days, and we can work to support people better. And then like I said, I'll pass them on to the likes of the Dining Room or any of the other organisations that are working to support people. So I suppose, has anybody any other questions for me? Lisa Marie, did I answer your question in relation to the Help to Buy? Have I just been rambling at people? Are you all sick of listening to me? If so, that's absolutely fine. I would be sick of listening to me after 44 minutes. Okay. Like I said, you'll have to forgive me. This is our first time doing this. So I really hope that I've answered everybody's questions. Uh, Actually, Nicola, that's a really good idea. Stationery supplies or anything like that are always welcome. I have a box, so I have a storage space here. It's behind the purple wall. Myself and my nephew actually painted that purple wall a couple of months ago. So I'm one of those county councillors who actually does the work. But actually, I probably should say I don't do the work, because in actuality, my nephew done most of the work in relation to painting the wall. So am I on any other SPCs? Yeah, so Chris, no, the way our SPC model works in Kildare County Council is because we had 5 SPCs, we now have 6 SPCs, including the climate action one. So because we have 6 SPCs, each councillor only sits on one SPC or special policy committee. Now, the other side of things is, as far as I'm aware, there's still some vacancies on some of the SPCs in relation to the community seats that would be allocated through the Public Participation Network, or PPN. So if anybody's interested in getting involved in SPCs, I would be contacting kind of some local groups that you might work with to see if they're registered with the PPN and if they'd be interested in putting you forward, because it's an excellent way for people to inform policy on their local council and get better involved in local governance, local government, and local policy creation. Mark, local shops, can the council do anything about them? Some look very poor condition. So that's actually something I've been working on. Now, the reality is for open shops and working shops that are there currently, the Retail Improvement Shopfront Grant will be opening soon in March. That will allow people to upgrade their shop fronts. It's up to 50% of cost if it's just a normal shop front upgrade, or 75% if they include an accessibility or an age-friendly measure. But all of that's in the form, and I'll be dropping them around to the businesses as soon as I can. But with regards to empty shops, now I know I've been working with a couple of shops in relation to getting them to or a couple of shop front owners in relation to getting them to upgrade their premises if they're still vacant. Now there's some that are engaging, and there'll be some really nice things happening in Newbridge over the next couple of months. Now I can't say too much because it's obviously those businesses belong to those business people, and the last thing I want to be doing is stepping on their toes. And the reality is while I've supported them in doing the work is theirs, it's not mine. As a county councillor, I believe that our role is to support people to do what they want to do, not to take credit for for every little thing, if you know what I mean. But there's some empty shop units that the owners or the agencies that are managing them just they won't engage. Now the reality is that we can push for the Derelict Sites Act, we can push for any number of other initiatives that would force that person into action, but that should always be a last ditch option. We shouldn't be pushing those things, but if needs be, that's exactly what I will push. There's a couple of places around the town that do require some immediate work, to be honest. Thanks, James. Yeah, no, sorry, I think I've missed somebody. Elaine, you were asking about capacity. What's our preference of that? Yeah, as you can see from Niamh there, I suppose my tendency to hoard things for other people does come in handy, and we do like organising. I've had I've had a couple of people support me in kind of organizing or sorting things. I have a gigantic black bag of period products in there for a project that's coming down the line for Newport Family Resource Centre. So, like, I mean, there's a bit of space there. There's a whole kitchen space at the back that right now I use as a kitchen space. But I'm sure we have no issue in turning that into a storage space too. Although Neve may kill me. James Garvin, yeah, no, like, I mean, the reality is that that's what the PPN is there for. It stands for Public Participation Network, and it allows the public to participate better in policy creation or the direction of council policy, and that is massively important. And it's one of the few spaces where we have the opportunity to engage with. Like, I mean, obviously, like with initiatives like this that I'm doing, I'm trying to give people the opportunity to engage with me as best they can, especially during a pandemic, because normally I'd be walking the streets Godot, and anybody who sees me will stop me, as I'm sure anybody who has ever seen me walking up the town will tell you. But those opportunities are reducing more and more with level 5 kicking in, and I've been trying to reduce my interactions to those people that I have to work with, so that those people are in immediate need of support. But we will get there. We will all get through this. We are in this together. We just need to support each other as best we can, and that's again, like I said, that's what I've been trying to do. Okay, so I seem to have answered all questions. Sweet jumping Jehoshaphat. We are almost on an hour. I can see I'm down to 10 people watching now. Oh, back up to 12. So, like I said, if anybody has any other questions, what I'm hoping to do is I'm actually hoping to do one of these lives a week, possibly on the Friday or Saturday, to give people the opportunity to ask me any questions, to come in, to have a chat with me. This is as close as I can get to sitting down to having a cup of tea with some of you right now, unfortunately. So this is what we're going to do. Now, I'm not having tea today. I'm actually drinking a can of Edge. I guess it's the one way to keep you awake. But the other side of things is, if anybody has any other initiatives or ideas or ways they think that we can support each other coming up, give me a shout. I'm happy to help you work on developing it, designing it, or essentially empowering our community. That's what I want to do as a county councillor. I want to give the power back to the community to kind of to work for themselves and to push things out there as best as we can. And I hope that I hope that I've been able to answer as many questions as possible. I hope that this was beneficial for all of you, because I do feel it was beneficial for me, because sometimes it's really difficult to, like I said before, reach out to people and have those conversations that we need to be having. As I can get out and about, drop off some donations in this pandemic. It's nice to, it honestly is, Nicola, nice to be able to support people as best we can, even if it's only something simple. And the reality is everybody is struggling. And if people can support, they should. If people can't, that's absolutely understandable too. I think it's also important when we look around to ensure that we're trying to support local and to buy local when we can. I think we really need to be cognizant of other workers. I know one of the issues that was raised to me only recently was from workers in a kind of a furniture delivery space, where their employers are kind of, because there's pressure from customers, their employers are now trying to force them to go into other people's homes. And that's something that we really need to be careful with. Like, yes, we want our furniture, I get that, but we need to make sure that it's safe. And we need to ensure that when we're doing stuff like that we're not putting other people in danger with something that's unnecessary, if you know what I mean. So yeah, like Marcus said there, remember, buy local and shop local and support local where you can. If anybody knows of any businesses that may be in need of the shop front grant, tell them to give me a shout. You can't apply for the shop grant every year, but it is a 3-year cyclical thing. So if you're speaking to any of them and they had a shop front grant back in 2018, they can now reapply for something different, so that will be important. There's lots of really good and powerful things coming down the line for Newbridge. I hope. I've been working on quite a few things. It's just about getting answers from KCC and getting the funding from central government. So, like, start pushing your local TDs to make sure that Kildare is funded properly, for one, because we can make this town the best it can be, and that's what we need to do. That's what we need to work on, and that's what we need to focus on. I think we've all had enough negativity. Now, I'm not telling people to stay positive or anything like it, because the reality is it's okay not to be okay, but maybe a Google form for that. Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to throw together a Google form for the next Q&A, so that people can fill it out in advance and I can answer any questions as best I can. But with 55 minutes on the live clock, I think I am going to sign off here. I really hope that this has been beneficial for you all. It has been nerve-wracking for me, but I got more comfortable as it went on. And I will talk to you again next week, or have a chat with you again next week. In the meantime, if you have any issues, my messages are open. My number is 085 829 8237. My email is chris.pender@socialdemocrats.ie. And I'm on WhatsApp and Viber. So for anybody who may have literacy issues, or may not be able to read or write effectively, even on Facebook Messenger, you can send me a voice note. Mark's trying to get me to hang in for the last 5 minutes so that I can, so that I actually have an hour of live going. If you want me to hang in for the last 5 minutes, you're going to have to. Oh, sorry, it's not even 5 minutes. It's 4 minutes and 7 seconds. So if you want me to hang in there, you're going to have to ask 4 minutes and 7 seconds worth of questions. But yeah, so people can send me voice messages if they have any literacy issues, because I'm aware that not everybody can read or write. So voice messages or videos are absolutely fine as well. And thank you very much. Neve has thrown my phone number in there, and I hope to see more of you next week. And if you are talking to anyone, let them know how this went. Unless you think it went badly, then don't tell them how this went. If you think this was good, tell them how it went and tell them to pop over, ask a few questions next week. So I suppose I'll hey Simon, I will sign off with telling people that we will do this again next week at the same time. So 8 p.m. next week. Kind of asking. Absolutely. Listen, Lisa Marie, if you give me a shout at some point, we'll talk through your options and talk through what is available to you. Neve has popped my phone number and my email up there. You can try ringing me. I will answer when I can answer. The best way to contact me would be by emailing me, because I can keep on top of them. So just give me a shout. I suppose, Mark's after telling me to stay on for the 5 minutes so that I have the hour. I suppose we're on 58 minutes and 12 seconds at the moment, so I suppose I can stay on for a couple of extra minutes. But yeah, if anybody has any other questions, email, text, WhatsApp, Viber. You can get through to me in many ways. You can text, you can voice message me, you can video message me, you can do any of these things. Thank you very much, Nicola. I've tried to update as best I can, and I'll try to do this again. I will be online on live at 8 o'clock next week, and I'm sure now that the rest of you have a little bit more warning, you might have a lot more questions for me next week. If you have anything that you'd specifically like me to talk about next week, just fire me over a message or anything like it, and I will do my best to find out the information, get through it, and then hopefully we can have a much more informative and interactive space. And I will talk to my other colleagues to see if at some point we can get some of the rest of them on and have a chat. I suppose what's stay home and stay safe. Have a good night, folks, and I will I will speak to you again next week, or if any of you feel like picking up the phone to me, I will speak to you during the week. Have a lovely evening, have a lovely night, and I'll see you all again soon.